This video is intended as an introduction to Release 9 for current EditNC users. I'm John Coelho, developer of the EditNC product, and we'll be looking at new capabilities such as the ability to convert between CNC file formats, a new macro facility, an improved print dialog, an improved file search capability, and several other enhancements. First, let's look at the conversion function. This is found under the Action menu, which used to be called Global. This is a change with Release 9. We've renamed Global to Action. And under that, you'll find a menu item called Conversions. And this is used to convert between several different CNC file formats. In this case, I've loaded a apt format CL file produced by a CAM system. And you can see here a list of the file formats that are supported. 3 FANUC variations. The difference between them would be the way the circles are defined. One is uses IJK words relative to the center of the circle to define the center point. Another uses absolute circle centers, IJKs, as absolute circle centers. The third format defines the radius of the arc using an R word. We also handle a Heidenhain format, which we call a conversational CNC program, DXF for output only, and the apt CL format. And other than the DXF, we can convert freely between all of these. So we have here an apt file. If we want to convert that to a G-code file with circle centers relative to the start point, we select that option, pick Process, and there's the conversion. This is the FANUC version of this apt program. And we can in turn take this one. We can convert that to a FANUC program with R word circles. And we could in fact take this one and go back to our original apt CL format. Now we usually get a 100% conversion if we're converting between FANUC formats. If we're converting between CNC formats, for example, FANUC to Heidenhain, there may not be a 100% correspondence between the cycles. And in those cases, the editor will convert what it can and will insert comments at the appropriate places indicating where blocks need to be manually edited in order to complete the conversion. And now let's look at the macro facility. As of this release, EditNC has a built-in macro facility. These macros are used to produce G-code output, and they're written in a language very similar to FANUC macros. If you understand FANUC macros, you should have no difficulty understanding these. A small macro library comes with the editor. Here's a couple of them that I'll show you. One that we call a body macro is used to create simple skeleton CNC programs. This is a list of the parameters required by this macro with a few comments indicating their usage. And we complete information such as programmer name, part number, number of tools that are used in the program, click process, and the program skeleton is created. And then this can be fleshed out manually in order to produce a complete CNC program. Let's look at a couple of the others. We'll start a new window. Look at a circular pocketing macro. I should say a word about the graphics that are down here. These are simply bitmaps that are created using whatever tool you like and then stored with the macro in the macro library, which can be wherever you like. And they're simply used to illustrate the meaning of the parameters and so on. It's not a requirement. If there's no bitmap associated with a macro, then this section of the screen isn't shown. This is a simple pocketing macro. We'll go with the default parameters, process it, and then look at it with the backplotter to see the output. Okay, and that's what we've done. Now these macros can be as simple as the ones I've shown you here. They could be as complex as family of parts programs as the saying goes, you're limited only by your imagination. Let's take a look at, let's take a look at one of the macros themselves. Here's a macro that's used for thread milling. It does a tapered thread mill. At the top, we've got the parameters. We saw the parameter list a minute ago. See if we can bring up the macro itself so we can see how those are used. So right here you can see these comments here being put into this table to be filled out by the user. And these include some specifications regarding number of decimal positions, default values, and so on. And then we start the macro itself. There's some error checking that's done. The user would see these error messages if they made a mistake. Then the macro itself is right here. Fairly simple, straightforward. And this is Gmacro as it's implemented in EditNC Release 9. This has been available for a couple of years. This is an enhanced version of an add-on that we've had available for a couple of years at extra cost. It's now included within the basic editor itself. Now I'd like to show you some enhancements that we've made to the Search for Files dialog. This existed in prior releases. We've simplified the dialog and enhanced it. We can specify various criteria, the directories we want to search, whether we want to search subdirectories, file extensions that we're looking for, in this case files with an extension of NC, NCD, or apt, and we'll search for those files containing the characters G2, which should be most of them. The editor goes out, scans those directories that were specified, and in this case finds 233 files. We can sort the columns by clicking on the headers, and then preview the files by clicking here, clicking on the file name, and then if we want to read in a given file, we can double click on the file name. We've also made enhancements to the print dialog. We have access to the printer properties now, so if you have a printer that duplexes or has color capabilities, you can fine-tune those. That'll depend on your printer, of course. And we've added a print preview so that you can see what you're going to get when you print it. Now in Release 9 we've changed the implementation of the CNC reference file. This was previously housed in a tab under the Programmer's Calculator, the Calcs menu. We've moved it to the Help menu. We have a menu item called CNC Reference to bring up the reference file. And as before, we have a drop down to pick the various topics, center drill sizes, G-codes for turning centers, and so on. One of the changes that we've made is to make this file an RTF file, a rich text format file, which is a standard Windows file format, editable with WordPad, which comes with Windows. We've put a button on the display itself. We'll call up whatever editor you have registered for the RTF file type. By default, in most cases, this will be WordPad. So this is simply the WordPad editor, which can then, you can make changes to the file using WordPad, file it, and those changes will be reflected in the reference file. Any lines in this file that start with a double slash are considered comments and are not shown. Lines that start with a T, uppercase T, colon, are going to be headings that will show in that drop down. And so any changes we make here will be reflected in that file. And then to take a look, you can use the little refresh button down here, or just close it and it'll reopen the new file. There's also a new button under Options, Miscellaneous tab, down here that says Restore the original CNC reference file. This is just in case you make some changes that you really didn't intend to make or didn't get the results, quite the results that you wanted. You want to go back to the file as it was shipped with EditNC. Click on this button and it will restore the individual file and store the original file. But don't forget that any changes that you've made previously will be lost there as well, so you may want to back that file up. And just one additional point, if you make some changes that you think would be useful to the CNC community at large, you'd like to see them included in future releases of EditNC, then by all means send them to us and we'll include them for your convenience and the convenience of others. Now I'm going to switch users to illustrate another new feature, which is the single instance feature of the editor, so the screen's going to look a little different in a second. Now I'll demonstrate the new single instance option of EditNC. As I'm sure you know, there are several ways of starting programs under Windows. You can double click on the icon, probably the most common way. Other ways would be to double click on a file where the file extension is registered to a particular program. In this case, the NCD file extension is registered to EditNC. So if I double click on a file, that file comes uploaded in the editor. In the past, if we double clicked on another file while the editor was already running, it would start a second copy or a second instance of the editor. Now we have an option to start that file within the current copy of the editor, so that we'll only maintain one copy running at a given time. And this will be regardless of how we start the files. How we start the editor. If we drag a file to the icon, then instead of starting a new editor, it'll just start the file. It'll just open the file within the editor. If I click two files by holding the Shift key down, drag them over, then they will both start within the editor. You can control this option with the Options menu, Miscellaneous tab. Up at the top we have a new checkbox labeled Do Not Run Multiple Editor Copies. Checking that will cause this behavior where we'll start files within an existing instance of the editor. If you change this option, you need to close the editor, not shut down Windows, but you need to close the editor in order to make that option take effect. Now let's summarize what we've seen in this video. First of all, there's been some menu changes. Global has been changed to Action. We've moved the Options menu under Edit and DNC Configuration menu under the DNC menu. We've added the ability to convert between CNC program formats, between FANUC formats, FANUC to Heidenhain to APTCL, and so forth. We added a macro facility, which we call gmacro, which lets us execute FANUC-like macros by entering parameters, having the output produced in the editor. We've improved the file search capability and simplified the dialog somewhat. We added a few features to the print dialog, including print preview and the ability to access printer parameters that we didn't have before. We've moved the CNC reference file to the help menu and made it more easily editable by the user. And we've added the ability to maintain a single instance of EditNC at the user's option. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video was useful in examining the features of EditNC Release 9.